Hi guys, welcome back. I am Georgie. Thank you for dropping into my channel. First of all, Happy New Year to all of you. Hopefully you've had a good start to the year so far. I know we're a couple of weeks in. I've been fairly unproductive, but that's okay. So I do have a couple of things lined up this year already, but before I start thinking about that, I did want to have a little chat about something pretty cool that I did last year. I think I touched on it briefly last year, but I had the chance to have my directorial debut. It was my first time directing a show by myself, and not only was I directing my first show, I was directing my dream show. So I got the chance to direct Grover Theatre Company's production of Spring Awakening. So Spring Awakening is one of my favourite shows, one of my favourite musicals. It's been one of my favourite musicals for years. I've seen it produced several different times by several different companies and I love every version of it. There is a fly buzzing so loud. Stop. Thank you. So for those of you who don't know, Spring Awakening, it's set in 18th century Germany. It's about a bunch of teenagers just discovering their sexuality, discovering what it means to grow up. There's a lot of heavy concepts in the show. And there is, spoilers, a couple of death scenes. So I've always wanted to be involved in a show like Spring somehow, and luckily my friend Hannah asked me to jump on board and direct the show. So directing was a pretty cool experience. It's a fairly unique experience, especially getting to do my dream show, and it was my first show. I had directed things in the past with other people. I'd done co-directing, I had done like little projects, but I hadn't done a big scale musical like this before. So since it was so cool, I thought I would just chat about it and fill you guys in on what it was like. Now, this became essentially my Bible for the show. It was my notebook that I took to every single rehearsal where I could take down notes and sketch ideas and remember blocking and things like that. I don't know where my script is actually. Fun fact, my script just fell apart in the rehearsal process. I do like to leave my scripts very well loved by the end of the show. It did mean that no one in the cast wanted to borrow my script because there was no point, it was too much of a mess, but there you go. But this thing kept me sane. It was given to me by Hannah, who was also in the show and also runs the theatre company. That woman can do it all. So I didn't use this notebook all the time, but I did have it on me at all times just in case. I had another notebook as well. I like to just multitask and multi-notebook, why not? So the first thing we did as a full cast and crew was to have our read-through, which is when we got everyone together and we went to our rehearsal space, we sat in a big circle and the cast just read through all the script. We also had our musical director Tim on piano, and so he would play through the songs, so the cast, most of the cast had a general idea of the music already, and we got to hear them sing and interacting in character. It was really nice for me as a director to see the whole cast together for the first time and being able to put the characters to the actors' faces and really getting a feel for the show and starting to work out my concept for the show. But I also did take a lot of notes during the read-through. I just worked out kind of rough ideas for the themes of the scenes, kind of what kind of a feel and a vibe I was getting from the actors in the scene, and also little blocking ideas. That fly is just crawling down the wall. You have wings, buddy, you can fly. But also that's quieter, so stay there. Thank you. Oh. I said stay there and then he flew away. The audacity. So once we started rehearsals, I had to do something that every director probably hates. I'm sure anyone else who's directed a show or stage managed a show really can understand the agonizing time you spend putting together a rehearsal schedule. I had never had to really do this before. I had done roughly before when I directed a show back at university, but that was not the same as directing a musical. With a musical, you've got to allocate time for all the songs to be learned, you've got to allocate time for the songs choreography to be learned. You also have to work in time to do the scene work. You've got to work out time to put it all together. It's a lot. Trying to figure out which cast members I needed, working out which cast members couldn't come to certain rehearsals because of illnesses, because of work, because people have lives and have things that come up unfortunately. So there was a lot to do, and that rehearsal schedule definitely kept me up at night for a while. But I got there in the end. It definitely changed over time. I think as a director I had to learn that my rehearsal schedule did not need to stay the same all the way through, and it didn't. We changed it all the time. But that's life. Things change, you have to adapt. Another big part about my directing was I really like to work with a concept, and I like to have a theme or a concept that I work around. And for Spring Awakening, my concept, which my actors got so sick of hearing I'm sure, was connection. We had a running joke that, you know, how many times could I fit connection into a rehearsal? I said it a lot. But I really feel like Spring Awakening is about connection. It's about the actors connecting to each other obviously, but in terms of the show it's about each character connecting to everyone else, or struggling to connect to others, trying to connect to people and everything falls apart, trying to connect to people and getting pregnant. you know, just your everyday teen things. But I really tried to keep that thread of thought in rehearsal, and the reason I said it so often was to keep it in the actors' minds when they're working, you know, focusing on connecting to characters that they didn't think they would. You know, maybe it's not mentioned in the script, but maybe they can have a moment when they're wandering around. And because we did have moments with a lot of people on stage without lines, perhaps just interacting in the background, that gave us more chance to create those connections. I was also very lucky that my choreographer was super on board with the theme of connection, and she did a lot of workshops and a lot of warm-up exercises before we did choreography to really focus on connection and making sure that the actors felt really connected with each other, especially since it's such especially since, oh my god, I can't speak, especially since it is such an intense show. Say that 5 times fast. But it is an intense show. It's quite emotionally taxing and draining for the actors because they're putting a lot of effort and a lot of emotion into the characters. So we made sure that everyone felt really comfortable and really safe when they were dealing with especially, you know, tricky topic. So as a director, I also wanted to make sure that I was on the same page as my actors in terms of their characters. So early on in the process, I made sure to pull them all aside. I don't think I pulled everyone aside. I think it was mostly people who had very significant scenes in the script, who had like kind of the main people. That's a lie. They were all important and they were all main to me. But in terms of the story and the show, I made sure to go and have a chat with everyone about how they saw the characters, thinking about their family relationships and their dynamics, just to make it feel like a really real show and to make sure that we're all on the same page across the board, because there's nothing worse than you having an interpretation of your character and then your director telling you to do something completely different, because then you both get confused and it's just not a good show. And I wanted to do a good show. So as we started to put the show together, I started taking more notes for the cast, as every director does, and I had my other little funky notebook here. It says great ideas, master schemes, evil plans, and other random shit, which for me meant my director notes. So, haha, look at those notes. There are pages and pages of these. So I tried to have a balance of constructive criticism with positive reinforcement in my notes. I like to make sure that everyone knew when they were doing something that really worked and that was really good, but also when things needed to be changed. But I also love to do a lot of ticks. That was sort of my way of positive enforcement, was being like, hey, you guys got 5 ticks for that scene, great job. Just to prove how many ticks I like to do. I don't know if you can see all of the ticks happening here. Generally with these notes, I would either sit the cast down after the rehearsal and run through them and they could pop the notes into their phone as I read them out, or I would type them up and then send them to the cast. We also had a rehearsal camp, which was really exciting. Our theatre company has done this before and I love rehearsal camp so much. I didn't anticipate rehearsal camp as a director. I didn't really think that through. I did another rehearsal schedule for our camp and that stayed a little closer to what I actually started off with. Once I posted it out, we pretty much stuck with how I laid things out. And rehearsal camp was a lot of fun, but I did a lot of work. Even though I was just sitting down, I was thinking the entire time. I had to be really, really focused. So basically with our rehearsal camp, we took our entire cast up into the bush. We all drove up and met there on the Friday night and got ourselves set up. And then Saturday we worked essentially from 9 to I think about 5 or 6. It was pretty intense. And that was really our chance to put the whole show together. And so we were essentially blocking anything that hadn't been blocked. We were focusing on like a couple of fight scenes. A lot of music got learned. We had some intense choreography. It was very good. Everyone was very focused and I was so proud of our cast. Everyone worked really hard. We did get to wind down a little bit on the Saturday. We had a little like trivia talent show. It was really fun. It was really silly. I got up and performed a couple of songs. We did a bit of karaoke, so I volunteered myself. I'd been sitting down all day. I needed to, let loose. I think I probably performed a few more songs than everyone else, but, it was okay. It was my time to shine. So Sunday we all woke up nice and bright and early and got ourselves looking pretty. Well, I didn't have to, but the cast got themselves looking pretty. And we had a photo shoot for the show, a bit of promotional material, which was really, really cool. We looked a little bit like a cult. Everyone was in these old style costumes and standing around in odd lines. Probably didn't look great if you're driving past, but it looked really good on camera. And then after the photo shoot was finished, we ran through our entire show, which was really cool. We got to see everything properly. A lot of stuff hadn't been done when we had tried to do run-throughs before, but this was the first time that we had, I think, just about everything blocked. It was pretty much a full show, which is just crazy. Everyone works so hard. Now, if you want to get a little behind the scenes look at our rehearsal camp, see what it was like from an actor's perspective, one of our main actresses, our lead actress, Kring, who played Vendla, she did a little behind the scenes vlog of what it was like on her channel. You can go and find it somewhere up here. And then came production week. And production week was a nightmare, especially to be a director who hadn't directed a show before. It was very scary. Loved it, learned a lot. Oh, stressful. But let's talk about why. First of all, our venue was very exciting. It was a little bit bigger and fancier than I was used to, which was very cool. We got there and first of all there was a few issues with a couple of set pieces. Our set, we had 4 flats that looked really cool. I'll put a picture here so you can get a rough idea of how our flats looked. They were meant to be a little more spaced apart, but once we got the flats onto our stage we realised that they wouldn't fit, and we had to move a couple of things, which meant we had to reorganise a lot of entrances and exits because I had people entering from every gap and now we didn't have that. So there was a lot of renegotiating, and our tech run through was a lot of stop starting just to figure out where people were coming on from, let alone figuring out the lighting plot. Bump in was a very, very long day. We bumped in on the Sunday and we were there for ages. It was a big day. I think all the way up to Wednesday was pretty much the same. It was a lot of running around trying to get things finished. I had to do a mic plot for the first time. I'd never done a mic plot. I had to Google what a mic plot looked like. We only had 11 microphones, I think, and we had a cast of 18. So obviously ensemble didn't necessarily need a microphone, but we did have to work out who needed a microphone and when do they need a microphone and when can they take the microphone off and give it to the other person who needs it after them. Then some of the microphones didn't work during show week and we had to figure out a new mic plan, and at one point I think I gave up and handed it off to someone else. Directors delegate, so I just delegated that task, you know. So as a director, one of my big things during show week was to put together our lighting plot to make sure that everything looked really good. So I was talking a lot to our lighting guy Sam, who was amazing. We worked with him before and he's just great. My first lighting plot was very basic. I literally sat down and I just wrote down every time I thought a lighting change needed to happen on stage. I went through the script and just made some numbers. My numbers ended up being way off and irrelevant, but I tried my best. And then I had to take this and go and sit down with our lighting guy and try and go through. I knew we wouldn't have a lot of time to actually run through and do a proper tech run. Generally with a tech run it means you get to stop and start and sort of let the actors go through everything. We didn't necessarily have the time for that, so we made do. But I think the show ended up looking pretty good. I'd say we had a pretty successful show and the lighting looked beautiful. I was also very fortunate to get a stomach bug towards the end of show week, and by the end of show week I mean I missed our last dress rehearsal and I also missed opening night because I was homesick, which was just the worst timing. But I am so grateful that at that point our show was pretty much together. I knew that I could miss a fairly pivotal day, as heartbreaking as it was, but I knew that I could safely hand it off to the cast. So once the show opened we had 2 weeks of shows, and once I was healthy I was able to go and enjoy those shows, and I either sat down in the audience or I would sit up in the mezzanine. I could contact our stage manager Kyle, who was incredible, and I just got to really sit there and watch the show that I had helped create, which was really cool. And then closing night happened and we were done and I cried. Look, I generally cried at least once during the show, but I'm pretty sure a closing night I cried in the first song and then I was on and off for the rest of the show. And then by the last scene I was just done. I was just sobbing. In a good way, of course, because I was just so proud of everyone. Again, if you want to have a look at the behind the scenes of an actor's perspective during show week, see how stressful it was for the actors, Kring has a little video as well, you can check that out. Overall, it was definitely a really stressful experience. I over-anticipated how chill I would be able to be, and I thought, oh, I've done some directing before, I'll be fine. It was a lot of work, and there's a lot of responsibility on you as a director to put together this beautiful show. I think I learned a lot about myself as a person and how I like to lead people. I learned a lot about problem solving and delegating. I'm really good at delegating now. I know when I just can't do something, I'm happy to find someone who can. And also, I think I just got better at communicating with people. Understanding, especially with directing, that some people take direction in different ways and some people need different types of direction, and I had to figure out how to best work with those people to make sure that I got the best performance from them and to make sure that they had a good experience with me as well, because I wanted them to enjoy themselves. Ultimately, we were doing community theatre. People do it because they love it. And I wanted them to really love the experience, even if they felt stressed, even if I felt stressed. I think I said a few times to people, especially during show week, I said to our actors, if you're stressed, just know that I'm stressed as well. We're going through this together. And I think having everyone in that mindset, we knew that we were all there to support each other. We all really connected, you know? So that just about wraps up my little throwback to directing. Also, big shout out to Lizzie and Tim and to Kyle and to Hannah and all the cast and crew and our amazing band. Everyone really, really worked hard and we put on a damn good show. We really did. I'm very proud of it and I miss it so much. I can't believe it happened and I can't believe I got to do that. Such a good experience despite the stress. I ate a lot of pizza in production week too. I ate some good pizza. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you found it a little bit interesting. Hopefully I gave a bit of insight into what directing is. It's a lot of stressing and figuring it out as you go. I'm not planning to do any more directing anytime soon, but I am in a show, in a play coming up in March, again with Grover Theatre Company, Dinkum Assorted, so hopefully I'll have a couple little updates for you then. So if you enjoyed this video and you're excited for some Dinkum diaries soon, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button down below. And I will be back with another video for you soon. Bye!